All right, so Senator, basically a week until Election Day here. How you feeling going into this race?
Look, I feel pretty good. The energy seems to be good, and I think we've gotten our message out there about the fact that I've got the track record and the ability to address the issues that people care about.
What made you want to jump into this race? You came in basically a couple days after Dwight Evans said he was going to retire. What made you want to jump into this?
Well, look, there have been people who had encouraged me to run for Congress for some time, but I have a great deal of respect for Congressman Evans and the work he did. And then they were saying, look, are you just not interested? I said, I'm interested. I said, I will get in. I'll get in the day he gets out. And so he got out, I got in. But the reason was I was looking at what's going on in this country. The attacks on the affordable care and health care. I helped create, my legislation created Pennsylvania Healthcare Exchange. A penny. 486,000 people get health care that way. Violence prevention. We fought so hard, and we're announcing even more violence prevention grants just coming up to make sure that we could, fund all the programs to deal with violence prevention. And now the feds are actually cutting violence prevention grants. Something that at one point was a bipartisan thing, but now they want to cut it. And then the basic issues around affordability. And then finally, look, I fought Trump and I beat him. And nobody else in this race has done that.
Tell me about your platform. What's really the signature issue that you want to hammer home to voters?
Signature issue for me is that I deliver. I have the ability to deliver for Philadelphians. The reality is prices are high, and people need to make sure we can address those issues. And whether it's job creation, so you can have more money in your pocket. We've delivered money for PTTI, Philadelphia Technician Training Institute, training people to work on projects like the ones down at the Navy Yard. Those are big projects, $5 billion, 5,500 jobs. Those folks are going to all have more money in their pockets. The fact that I've taken on Trump and I've beaten him around issues around our voting rights stuff, and now voting rights are under attack. I took him to court and beat him on those very issues. And when you look at issues around healthcare, the Pennsylvania Healthcare Exchange, created at the state level, will be able to get things done at the federal level as well.
CD3 is such a big district, right? It's the most heavily Democratic district in the country. But it's big and it's broad and it's diverse. You go all the way from South Philly up to the Northwest, from Rittenhouse to Cobb's Creek. What do you think folks in CD3 really need from an elected official?
They need people that can deliver real results. They don't need empty rhetoric, and they don't need ideas without action. The reality, the difference between me and other folks in this race is I have a substantive track record of delivering on all the big issues in the race. This morning we were at SEPTA, the Alney Transit Station. I was talking to voters. I helped deliver money for the reconstruction of that transit center. And now we need a lot more money for SEPTA. I will, as a member of Congress, I'm going to fight to deliver resources for SEPTA there. Why should people trust it? Because I've done it. When you're talking about keeping communities safe, I've delivered violence prevention dollars, and not small amounts. I negotiated $300 million of structural money. That's $1.5 billion. We started that. Gun violence was at an all-time high. Now we're at a 60-year low. And on taking on Trump, we're always talking about voting rights. The reality is when he wanted to take away drop boxes, when he wanted to take away when he wanted to take away early voting, when he wanted to take away all the basic mechanics around, we took him to court and we beat him. Now look, some of this, so I've gotten the big legislative wins, I've gotten the big court wins, but the difference is I don't just talk and give big speeches and big ideas. I actually have the ability to deliver for people, and that's what I think people want.
We're talking about a primary here, of course, so it's not Democrat and Republican. You're running against other Democrats. What do you think separates yourself from your opponents in this race?
Exactly, because it's a primary. Why it's not just about big ideas. It's about the ability to deliver on those ideas. Because almost everybody in this race says we're for everyone be able to see a doctor. There may be some minor differences around the edges, but it's who's going to be able to deliver people's ability to do that, right? And I have done that at the state level. I can do it at the federal. Almost everyone in this race says it's important that our communities are safe and that we don't just, and it's not just law enforcement, but that it's actually working with community-based organizations. But I've delivered that on a consistent basis. Almost everyone in this district talks about funding for mass transit. I have delivered on that issue as well. And we've got a lot of work to do there at the state and the federal level, but I've actually delivered results. Everyone in this district talks about fighting Trump. There's no one in this district who's like, I love Trump. They want to fight him. But I've sued him and I beat him. And I beat him in front of state judges and federal judges. I've taken him on, and that's what people need. Not just people. We're choosing the person who has the most effective record and the most proven capacity to deliver on shared priorities. And I have done that, and that's why I need to be the congressman for this district. I need people to choose me, and that's why I hope they will.
You mentioned you were out talking to voters today. What are you really hearing from voters when you're out there?
Look, people are encouraged, and also people like the fact that they see me at their churches, they see me and they know my record, and they like the fact that I'm Philly, that my support is Philly support. Like I don't have big outside interest groups coming to support me. Even the interest groups are local. It's the person that picks up their trash. That union. It's the people that they see at the hospital when they go in, the nurses. It's the people that are literally working the transit stations, the TWU workers. They're for me. I'm supported by regular Philadelphians and their unions. And that's the difference between my campaign. I don't have some New York socialists coming in. I don't have some out-of-town super PAC that we don't even know where the money's coming from. My campaign is for, by, and Philadelphians, and that's why it's focused on priorities. And people can see it. My union supported you. My pastor supported me. The black clergy of Philadelphia have endorsed me. The League of Muslim Voters of Delaware Valley, the ones here, have endorsed me. And so people like the fact that their local leaders, the people they talk to, the people they trust, whether it's their shop steward at their union, whether it's their pastor, whether it's their imam, whether it's their rabbi, those people are telling them that to support me, and it's their level of trust, and they've seen me in their community delivering for things they care about.
Let's say you win, you're headed off to Washington. What's day one priority?
Well, day one priority is electing a speaker. That's what you do on day one. After we elect a speaker, we got to make sure we continue to get prices down. We got to make sure we continue to create jobs. We got to continue to make sure we fund mass transit. We got to get money for our schools. And by the way, I have talked about, and I'm the only candidate in this race consistently talking about, we need a massive federal infrastructure program for schools. The reason that they're talking about shutting down 17 schools is because of infrastructure issues. One, I don't think we need to shut them down. I think there's probably a better way. But we have to recognize that if no one wants to shut them down, this is a byproduct of a lack of funding. Money that the city and the state don't have, but the federal government could give us money. We should be taking each and every one of those buildings and fixing them up. And we should do that for every child in America. That should be our next big infrastructure project. It should be $500 billion in infrastructure for school funding. And that would address an issue that is on the front lines for Philadelphia voters.
Let me ask you, because, let's say Democrats do take back the House. You win. You go to a Democratic majority House, may not have a Democratic majority Senate, still going to have a Republican president. Do you have to work across the aisle?
Absolutely, you got to work across the aisle. But I've never been in a situation you didn't. I didn't serve in city council. I served in the General Assembly, and my entire time in the General Assembly, neither party controlled everything. There were some points where Republicans had more power because they had the House and the Senate. We had the governor's office. At some points now we have the House and the governor's office, but the Republicans still control the Senate. But fundamentally, every accomplishment I've ever talked about, whether it's creating Penny, delivering violence prevention money, delivering money for SEPTA, had to be done in a bipartisan environment. I know how to work in a bipartisan environment and deliver. And so we're going to go into that. Now listen, this president is different than other Republicans, and he is a problem. That doesn't mean that we can't work. That doesn't mean that there's no one down there that was willing to work with us. That doesn't mean that we can't get things done. And he won't always be president. But the likelihood is that Washington will remain a bipartisan environment because you need 60 votes in the Senate, no matter what happens going forward. So we're likely to have a bipartisan environment. You need someone that can deliver for Philadelphia. So yes, we're going to have to do it. And by the way, that infrastructure thing I talked about for schools, that's the kind of stuff that that has a real chance of getting done. And guess what? If we did that, and everyone knew that we don't have to worry about schools closing, and then their kids' school would be that much stronger. That's something people could see. That's what people want us to do. Talk about actually delivering for them.
Late last month, there's a Gallup poll. 86% of Americans disapprove of the job of Congress. You can't get Americans to approve, 86% of Americans who really agree on anything. They disapprove of Congress. If elected, how would you work to kind of restore that faith, that trust in Congress?
Well, people want Congress people to do things. And by the way, that also is an indictment on the Republican majority that sits there. When 86% of people disapprove of Congress, and Congress never has high approval rules, people sometimes like their Congress people, but not Congress as a whole. But that is part an indictment of the Republicans' failure to deliver anything. Donald Trump's got a bunch of lies, and the members of Congress have gone along with it. We need to deliver for people. So when Democrats take control of the U.S. House, we need to make sure that we're delivering for the things people care about. And when Democrats are in charge, one of the things that we saw, people don't want to hear about just broad rhetoric. They don't want to hear about we love democracy and they're broke and they're broke. They don't want to hear about we care about your right. We're going to protect your rights, but their kids' school is about to close. What they want us to do is make sure when they drop their kid off to school, they can drop them off to their neighborhood school, and it's a good school. And they want to make sure that they're safe on the way there, and they got a good job, and they can afford some gas in the car to go there.
On that affordability issue, right? It's a pretty broad topic, and people have gone about it different ways. How would you work to make life more affordable? You talked about tangible things. How would you work to make life more affordable?
I think we got to talk about tangible things. I don't think people want to hear us talk about affordability abstract. They want to know, you know what? I've introduced a clean energy bill, clean energy portfolio standards bill, that would increase the availability of, that would help reduce the price of energy for people. They want us to address that. So guess what? If I'm doing something and the utility bills are lower, they care about that. The tariffs that Trump has that are driving up the cost of everything. He even put tariffs on, we bring in $4 to $5 billion worth of cocoa beans that power thousands of jobs here from Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. We never had a trade imbalance with West Africa. He did it because he's a racist, but it's stupid because there's a cost to his racism. It's costing Pennsylvania jobs. It's costing Philadelphia jobs. Get rid of those tariffs and it makes things more expensive. We can create more jobs. People want to know, what are you going to do to make sure I can afford my health care? Penny brought down the cost of health insurance. That was something I did at the state level. We restored those tax credits. It will bring down the cost of healthcare for everyone. So if my health insurance premiums are lower, so guess what? There's less money coming out my paycheck, so it's more money in my pocket. If I go to gas up my car, my energy prices are lower. If my utility prices are lower, that's real affordability. Those are the things people care about. They don't want to hear about us talk about it in the abstract. They want to know what specific things you're doing for me, and that's the kind of person I am.
A little over a week out, give me your last pitch to voters.
My last pitch to voters is, look, I'm a candidate who has delivered for you in the past. I'm the candidate that understands how things work and is talking about real nuts and bolts. You're going to hear from a lot of people. I doubt you're going to hear anybody's going to have a real plan to stop schools from closing. They're proposed to close in 2 years. If we deliver the money in 1 year, we don't have to close them at all. And we can stop the discussion, whether you're on the side that says the school board has a point or not. That's a discussion about not having enough money. I want to deliver the money so the schools can stay open. If you're talking about affordability and job creation, look, deliver to do that. Programs like PTTI, the Sam State and Junior Apprenticeship Program, creating jobs for training, getting us into real jobs and bringing jobs down at the port. And those are things I have actually done, and I'll be able to do it as a congressman. When you're talking about making our community safer, and guess what? We can't back off now. The homicide rate, while it's at a 60-year low, we can do better. And I had to stand there with a mother just last week who lost both of her sons. We can't, it's unacceptable that we allow homicides to rise, and I will continue to fund programs to reduce and make homicides, make our community safer. And no one else has fought Trump, sued him over a dozen times, and beat him every time. I'm the person who knows how to get things done, and I'm the person who knows how to fight. And that's why as congressman, with the votes, prayers, and support of people in Philadelphia, I'm going to help. I'm going to be a part of that coalition that leads us to get things done for regular people. That's what people want us to do, get things done.